So the El Salvador election is over, and Bukele won re-election with, it appears, 83 to 84% of the vote. This is probably the highest, at least to my understanding, vote percentage for a candidate to win a contested election that is relatively free. Now, there are some elections that are relatively free, like the ones you had in early America, where candidates ran unopposed, specifically Washington and Monroe, where they got probably this much or more of the vote because literally no one ran against them. But this is probably the highest, like I said, in an election that is relatively free and in which it was contested by opposition parties. And some people are starting to say that this means that Bukele is not a dictator, that he's a democratically elected leader, and that El Salvador is not a dictatorship, that it's a democratic country because 85% of the population wanted someone to be their president and he won re-election. And this is a trend I've been seeing in a lot of cases. Like I've seen this with regards to Germany, where people are going, well, if the people want to vote for the AFD, shouldn't they be allowed to? And isn't that how a democratic society works? Wherein if the people want certain policies, they're free to vote for them. And it's just like, I don't know what planet these people are living on. It's also like the people who go, well, if the Republican Party wants Trump and the American people want Trump, then isn't that their right to vote for him? And the answer is, of course, no. Like, I don't understand where this perspective comes from. That, like, getting 84 to 85% of the vote means that you are the democratically elected leader of a country. And because democracy is not really about vote percentage and vote share and stuff like that. It's about the feeling of being a democratic country. And like people understand this, they think it's really complicated or something. But it's about a country being democratic and having a culture of democracy and embodying democratic values. And those values do not include the ability of people to choose their own leaders. They have to choose leaders with democratic values. And I think that's pretty straightforward. And once again, we have like the case of Orban where he wins legitimate elections, but his party's too popular. His party's too popular. People want him to keep running the country, and that just is not in line with democracy. Like, I've also heard some jokesters say, well, Putin has an approval rating in like the mid to high 70s, and there's really no question that if you had a referendum tomorrow and you asked Russians, do you want your president to keep being your president? And you asked Americans if they want Biden to keep being their president, who would win? But once again, these people don't get it. Biden has the feeling of democracy and the values of democracy. Putin doesn't. And it's like, I don't understand why people can't understand this. Like people go, well, Bukele's crime policies had a 90% approval rating, so doesn't that mean they're democratic? It's like, no, because they violated people's rights. And you can't just have a super majority of people say, we want crime policies, because that's just not how it works. And like I said, I'm explaining it very, very clear here what democracy is, what democratic values are, and we're seeing this democratic backslide. Like this idea that the public has the ability to vote for who they want to vote for. And whoever gets like a majority, or in this case, basically everybody in the country supporting them, has some sort of right to govern. And it's just something we're going to have to change. We need to bring democratic values, EU values, liberal values to the world. And the first step towards that is we need to regime change El Salvador. We need to regime change Russia. We have to acknowledge the alternative. We'll acknowledge this Manuel Flores guy who got like 6% of the vote as the new president of El Salvador. We will acknowledge, I don't know, we'll find some dude in Russia. They'll be the new president. I don't know, we'll pick like the party that got 2% of the vote in Hungary. We'll make them the new leader. And this is how you bring about a democratic world with democratic values in a democratic society. And if Trump takes power, we remove him to coup because him getting a majority of the vote and being more popular than his alternative candidate is a threat to the democratic system. So I think that that's very clear. I think I've totally identified what democratic values are and what a democratic system of government is. And if you don't understand, it's because you're like a knuckle dragging, like, moron. So, yeah, I think that that covers it.